Some moments in your life were never random. You just didn't know how to read them. What if the coincidences you ignored were actually guiding you? And what if missing them is costing you clarity, direction, and meaning right now? You've been living in a world that taught you everything must have a cause, a reason, a visible chain. Yet deep down, you felt it. Moments when life answered you instead of obeying rules. A thought followed by an event. A dream echoed by reality. A sign that arrived exactly on time. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, and it changes how you see reality forever. This isn't mysticism. It's not superstition. It's a radical idea. Meaning can connect events where cause cannot. And once you understand this, you stop feeling lost inside chaos. You begin to recognize a hidden order, one that includes you. In this video, you'll discover how your unconscious perceives beyond time, why symbols appear when change is unavoidable, and how reality may be responding to your inner state more than you ever imagined. If you've ever felt that life was trying to tell you something, stay with me. You're about to understand what it's been saying all along. You've been taught that life works like a machine. Pull a lever, get a result. But sooner or later, something happens that shatters that rule. A coincidence lands with surgical precision, and deep down, you know it isn't random. That's where synchronicity begins, when meaning steps in where cause fails. It feels unsettling at first, like the floor shifting under your feet. Yet it also feels intimate, as if reality just looked you in the eye. This is the moment your perception starts to mature, not sharper, wider. Because life isn't just happening to you anymore, it's responding with you. Think of it like tuning a radio instead of pushing buttons on a vending machine. You don't force the signal, you align with it. When your inner world changes, the outer world echoes back in symbols and events. A book recommendation appears the same day a question haunts you. A conversation answers a thought you never spoke out loud. These aren't miracles, they're messages. Your psyche is picking up a frequency before logic catches on. And once you notice it, you can't unsee it. The world starts to feel less mechanical, more conversational. Now here's the part most people miss. They rush to explain it away, to protect their comfort zone. Just chance, they say, brushing past the feeling. But meaning ignored doesn't disappear. It waits. The unconscious keeps sending signals through dreams, images, and quiet nudges. Not to impress you, but to guide you, like road signs you only notice when you're lost. And let's be honest, growth usually starts there. Right when certainty collapses, right when curiosity sneaks in. Here's something practical you can actually do tonight. Start tracking moments that feel charged, not dramatic, just alive. Write down coincidences that stir emotion, not just surprise. Notice what you were thinking or feeling right before they happened. Patterns will emerge, I promise you. You'll see symbols repeating, themes circling back. This isn't superstition. It's attention training. You're teaching your mind to listen instead of control. That's where transformation quietly begins, not with effort, but with awareness. And once you sense that meaning can arrive without cause, a bigger question opens up. If events aren't always chained by force, what are they connected by? Why does one moment feel empty, while another feels orchestrated? This is where unity starts whispering through experience. Inner and outer thought and event start to blur at the edges. Not as theory, but as lived reality. And just when you think you've grasped it, another coincidence lands deeper than the last. Almost like an invitation, almost like a test. There are moments when you sense something before it happens. Not logically, not rationally. It's more like a quiet pressure behind the chest, a subtle nudge you can't explain. That's the unconscious doing what it does best, perceiving without permission. While your conscious mind is busy managing schedules and opinions, another part of you is already listening beyond the clock. This is where synchronicity deepens, Because now it's not just about events lining up, it's about timing dissolving. And that changes everything. You see, time isn't experienced equally by all layers of the mind. To the conscious self, it's linear, yesterday, today, tomorrow. But to the psyche, time is more like a landscape than a line. You can sense a mountain before you reach it. That's why dreams sometimes feel prophetic, even mundane ones. They're not predicting, they're perceiving, like weather pressure shifting before the storm arrives. The unconscious doesn't wait for proof. It recognizes patterns in advance, and then it whispers, "Let me ground this so it doesn't sound mystical." Have you ever felt uneasy about a meeting, then later realized why? Or felt drawn to read a certain book, only to find it answered a life question? That's not magic. It's perception working below awareness. Your unconscious is constantly scanning emotional and symbolic data. Faces, tones, memories, inner conflicts. It integrates them silently. By the time the event occurs, you feel that strange déjà vu sense. Not because you've lived it before, but because part of you already knew. Here's how you can work with this instead of ignoring it. Pay attention to emotional spikes that come without a clear reason. Sudden curiosity, unexplainable resistance, a random image that sticks. Write them down, especially if they appear in dreams. Don't interpret immediately, just observe. Over time, you'll notice meaning forming a pattern, like dots slowly connecting themselves. This practice strengthens trust between you and your inner compass. You stop forcing decisions. You start aligning with insight. And the more you trust this inner timing, the stranger and richer life feels. Events start meeting you halfway. Thoughts and situations overlap like transparent slides. You realize that coincidence isn't about luck. It's about readiness, about when the unconscious decides you're prepared to see. And once that door cracks open, symbols begin crossing from inside to outside. Not subtly, but unmistakably. Which brings us to a moment Jung himself never forgot. Some moments don't ask for interpretation. They confront you. They arrive so precisely that explanation feels almost insulting. This is one of those moments when a symbol steps out of the inner world and knocks on reality's glass. Carl Jung didn't invent this idea in theory. He lived it. And when you hear the story, you don't just understand it, you feel it. Because part of you recognizes that kind of timing, the kind that changes people, quietly, but forever. Imagine sitting with someone locked inside their own rational defenses. Every insight slides off, every interpretation fails. Then, at the exact second, they describe a dream of a scarab. A beetle taps on the window. Not metaphorically, literally. That moment wasn't persuasive, it was undeniable. The psyche finally found a crack. Resistance collapsed, not through argument but through meaning. Transformation didn't need force, it needed a sign. Here's what matters for you. The scarab wasn't important because it was rare. It was important because it mirrored the inner image perfectly. Inner and outer aligned like two puzzle pieces snapping together. That's synchronicity in its purest form. No cause, no pushing, just alignment. And notice something subtle. The event didn't create change by itself. It created permission. Permission for the unconscious to speak freely. That's how real shifts happen. You'll encounter your own scarab moments if you're paying attention. A phrase overheard at the right second. A symbol repeating across conversations, books, or media. An image that refuses to leave you alone. When this happens, don't rush to analyze. Pause. Let it land. Ask yourself, what inside me is trying to change? Because symbols don't appear to entertain you. They appear to escort you across an inner threshold. And once crossed, there's no going back. If you want to invite this kind of transformation, stop demanding clarity before movement. Do the opposite. Move toward what carries emotional charge. Read authors like Jung or Joseph Campbell slowly, reflectively. Journal recurring symbols without forcing meaning. Notice what stirs curiosity mixed with discomfort. That's where the unconscious pushes growth through imagery. And once symbols start materializing around you, you'll realize coincidence has weight. Almost like reality is collaborating, almost like it's guiding you forward. And yet, not all symbols arrive gently. Some announce endings rather than beginnings. Some gather quietly above a house, long before words are spoken, which leads us into a darker, deeper layer of synchronicity, where meaning prepares the soul for what reason refuses to accept. There are coincidences that make you smile, and others that make you stop breathing for a second. The second kind doesn't feel playful. It feels precise, like something invisible just underlined a sentence in your life. That's when coincidence stops being background noise and becomes a message. You don't decide it's meaningful. You recognize it, the way you recognize your own name in a crowd. The psyche leans forward in those moments. Attention sharpens, silence grows louder, and meaning steps into the room. Most people dismiss these moments because they don't fit the rules of cause and effect. But synchronicity doesn't compete with logic. It bypasses it. It operates like poetry, not math. The power isn't in explanation, it's in resonance. That's why some events feel empty, while others feel personal, not dramatic, personal. As if life just mirrored an inner truth you hadn't spoken yet. When that happens, your perception shifts. You stop asking, why did this happen? And start asking, what is this showing me? Here's where it gets uncomfortable and valuable. Meaningful coincidences often appear when you're stuck, at emotional crossroads, at the edge of a decision you're avoiding. They don't arrive to reassure you, they arrive to interrupt you, to shake you out of automatic living. A chance meeting challenges a belief you've been clinging to. A repeated symbol exposes a pattern you've ignored. The unconscious uses coincidence the way a mentor uses silence. Not to answer, but to provoke. You can train yourself to hear when coincidence is speaking. Not every alignment matters, but some carry emotional weight. Notice what triggers a physical reaction. Goosebumps, stillness, a strange calm. That's the body recognizing meaning before the mind catches up. Write those moments down, revisit them later. Often, clarity arrives after the event, not during. This practice sharpens your relationship with symbols. You begin to see patterns forming like constellations, separate stars, same hidden structure. That's how the unconscious maps reality. And the deeper you go, the more you realize coincidence isn't about chance at all. It's about alignment between inner readiness and outer timing. When those meet, events feel inevitable in retrospect, almost as if they were waiting for you to notice. This realization quietly changes how you move through life. You become less forceful, more responsive, less reactive, more observant. And then, something even stranger starts to happen. Thoughts and events begin to arrive almost together, as if they share a common origin beyond time. That's where the boundary between thinking and happening begins to blur. And once you see that line soften, you can't help but wonder, what if mind and world aren't separate at all? Your unconscious doesn't speak in sentences. It doesn't argue, persuade, or explain itself. It shows, through images, patterns, and repeating motifs that slip past logic. That's why symbols feel so powerful. They bypass resistance. They don't knock on the front door of reason. They enter through the side door of emotion. And once inside, they rearrange the furniture, quietly, permanently. Think about dreams for a moment. A single image can linger longer than an entire conversation. A staircase, an animal, a broken object. Each carries emotional weight, not because of universal rules, but because of personal meaning. The psyche chooses symbols the way an artist chooses color, deliberately. That's why two people can dream of the same object and feel entirely different things. The unconscious speaks in a private dialect, and synchronicity happens when that dialect suddenly appears in the outside world, like hearing your inner language spoken by a stranger. Here's the crucial insight most people miss. Symbols don't appear when you're comfortable. They emerge when change is necessary, when an old identity is wearing thin. The unconscious uses imagery to prepare you for transformation. It's like sending emotional postcards from a future version of yourself. And when the outer world echoes the same symbol, the message becomes impossible to ignore. That's synchronicity reinforcing direction, not commanding you, but nudging you forward. You can strengthen this dialogue with your unconscious. Start by paying attention to what emotionally grabs you in art, films, or books. Notice which images stick and which stories refuse to fade. Read authors who work in symbols, Jung, Joseph Campbell, even certain novels. Write down images that repeat across dreams, conversations, and daily life. Don't rush to interpret. Let meaning mature on its own timeline. This builds trust between conscious awareness and deeper perception. And trust is what allows symbols to guide rather than confuse. Over time, something subtle changes. Life stops feeling random and starts feeling expressive. Events feel less like obstacles and more like messages in motion. You begin to sense that the outer world mirrors inner shifts. Not perfectly, but poetically. That realization brings a strange calm, because if symbols are speaking, you're not lost. You're being oriented, and just when that sense of orientation settles in, another layer opens, one that challenges everything you think you know about time itself. At some point, you realize time doesn't feel the same in every moment. An hour of waiting can feel endless, while a life-changing conversation passes in seconds. That's your first hint that time isn't just a clock, it's an experience. And your perception of it isn't as limited as you were taught. The unconscious doesn't measure moments the way calendars do. It senses relevance, not sequence. That's why certain events feel anticipated before they arrive, not logically predicted, emotionally recognized. Almost like your inner world already stood there once, and now your body is catching up. This is where synchronicity becomes unsettling in the best way. Because it suggests that awareness isn't trapped inside linear time. Your psyche seems capable of touching information beyond now. Not in a sci-fi way, but in a deeply human way. Think of it like standing on a hill instead of inside a maze. From above, paths make sense before you walk them. The unconscious has that elevated view. It picks up patterns forming before events crystallize. So when something finally happens, you feel that quiet click of recognition. You've probably experienced this more than you admit. A sudden urge to call someone, then you learn they needed you. A decision delayed by an odd hesitation. Later, you're relieved you waited. These aren't coincidences fueled by fantasy. They're subtle communications from deeper perception. The problem isn't that this faculty is rare, it's that modern life trains you to ignore it. Noise replaces noticing, urgency replaces reflection, and the signal gets buried under speed. If you want to reconnect with this dimension, slow your inputs before forcing outputs. Create moments of silence, walks without headphones, mornings without your phone. Write down intuitive flashes without judging them. Treat dreams as messages worth revisiting, not just mental static. Over time, you'll notice timing improve in strange ways. You speak when it matters. You pause when rushing would cost you. You begin to trust inner timing as much as external schedules. That's not passivity, it's alignment. And alignment sharpens action, not weakens it. Once you sense perception extending beyond time, another realization follows. If awareness isn't confined to sequence, then events may not be isolated either. They may be connected beneath the surface like roots intertwining underground. This opens the door to a deeper question. What happens when thought itself begins to meet reality halfway? When inner images and outer events collide so closely, it's no longer just about perception, it's about participation. There's a strange moment when you realize the world isn't just reacting to what you do, it's responding to what you hold. A thought lingers, emotionally charged, and then reality echoes it back. Not because you forced it, but because both arose from the same depth. That's when synchronicity stops feeling external and starts feeling intimate. You're no longer a spectator watching coincidences pass by. You're involved, participating, almost co-authoring meaning with life itself. And that realization can be both thrilling and unsettling. Here's the subtle distinction that matters. This isn't about positive thinking or wishful manifestation. It's about alignment between inner state and outer timing. When your thoughts carry emotional truth, fear, clarity, longing, they resonate with patterns already forming in the world. The psyche doesn't shout, it harmonizes. So when an event mirrors your inner image, it feels like two notes resolving into the same chord. No pushing, no pulling, just convergence. You've felt this before, even if you didn't name it. You wrestle silently with a decision, then a conversation forces the issue. You question a relationship and a small incident reveals the answer. The event didn't cause your insight, it revealed it. That's the difference. Your perception was already ripe, reality simply confirmed it. This is why such moments feel relieving, even when they're painful. Truth, once mirrored, brings clarity. To work with this consciously, you need emotional honesty before action. Ask yourself what you're truly holding, not what you're pretending to think. Write it down. Sit with it. Notice what themes repeat across dreams, moods, and attention. When your inner world stabilizes around truth, outer events start responding with precision. You'll notice fewer random reactions and more meaningful encounters, not because life became predictable, but because you became coherent, and coherence invites response. As this awareness deepens, something shifts in how you interpret experience. Events stop feeling like interruptions and start feeling like replies. Reality becomes dialogical, not mechanical. And once that dialogue begins, you can't help but notice patterns repeating across time. Announcements before arrivals, signs before endings. Which brings us to a quieter, heavier expression of synchronicity, one that prepares rather than surprises, one that gathers silently like wings above a roof. Some forms of knowing arrive without drama. No flash, no warning siren. Just a quiet heaviness that settles in your chest before words exist. This is the kind of synchronicity that doesn't excite, it prepares. The unconscious senses an approaching threshold long before reason can name it, and instead of explanations, it sends signs, subtle, repetitive, almost ceremonial. You don't understand them at first, you endure them, and only later do they reveal their meaning. When Jung spoke of birds gathering before death, he wasn't being poetic. He was describing a pattern that repeated itself with emotional accuracy. The psyche perceived an ending before time delivered it, not as prediction, but as recognition. Like the body tensing before a fall you haven't seen yet. These moments don't come to scare you. They come to soften the impact of what's coming. The unconscious acts as a mediator between shock and acceptance. It prepares the soul when logic would break. That's compassion, not superstition. You've likely experienced this in quieter ways. A strange calm before a difficult phone call. An unexplainable urge to say something important, just in case. A sense of closure arriving before the door actually closes. These are not coincidences born of fear. They're signals of perception operating beyond conscious awareness. The unconscious gathers emotional data faster than thought ever could, and when the weight becomes too great, it translates knowing into symbols, signs you feel rather than decode, warnings that don't shout, but stay. Here's the hard truth most people avoid. Not all synchronicities are about opportunity or transformation forward. Some are about endings, release, and acceptance. The unconscious doesn't favor optimism, it favors truth. And sometimes truth means preparing you to let go. When signs repeat around loss, don't rush to deny them. Sit with them, breathe with them. Ask what part of you is being asked to mature. Because endings don't only remove, they reorganize. They clear space for a deeper unity within you. If you want to honor this form of knowing, cultivate stillness instead of distraction. Resist the urge to drown discomfort in noise. When something feels off, don't override it with logic too quickly. Write, walk, reflect. Let the unconscious finish its sentence. This doesn't make pain disappear, but it gives it context, and context transforms suffering into meaning. Once you see that, fear loosens its grip. You realize preparation is a form of care, and care is intelligence operating quietly. After enough of these moments, a pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Life doesn't just react, it announces. It signals before it shifts, and that realization leads to something even more unsettling and freeing. If you've known things before they happened, what does that say about time, memory, and awareness itself? That question opens the door to a deeper echo, one that feels like recognition rather than surprise, almost like you've been here before. That sudden pause you feel, "I've been here before," isn't your mind glitching. It's an echo, a quiet aftersound of perception that arrived earlier than memory. Déjà vu doesn't feel like imagination. It feels like recognition without a file. Your body knows before your story catches up. And in that split second, time folds in on itself. Past and present overlap like transparent sheets. You don't remember the moment, you recognize it. That difference matters. Think of the unconscious as a scout moving ahead of you. It walks the terrain before you do, sensing emotional contours. When the event finally arrives in space-time, consciousness steps into a place already mapped. That's why déjà vu carries calm, not panic. It's not warning, it's confirmation, a nod from the psyche saying, yes, this fits the pattern. This is synchronicity experienced from the inside out, not as coincidence, but as continuity, meaning completing a loop. You'll notice déjà vu appears more often during transitions. New jobs, new relationships, new inner identities forming. When your life is rigid, it's rare. When you're evolving, it increases, because the unconscious is working overtime, aligning inner readiness with outer arrival. That sensation of familiarity isn't about repetition, it's about alignment between who you're becoming and what you're meeting. Like recognizing a road you've only seen on a map. When you finally drive it, your body relaxes. You knew the turns before the signs appeared. That's not memory, it's meaning catching up. You can deepen this awareness instead of brushing it off. When déjà vu hits, don't rush past it. Pause and ask, what part of me knew this was coming? Notice what feels resolved or affirmed in that moment. Often, clarity hides there. This practice turns déjà vu into guidance rather than novelty. You begin trusting inner timing more than external urgency. And that trust reshapes how you decide, speak, and act. You stop forcing outcomes. You start recognizing arrivals. Here's the quiet shift that follows. Life begins to feel less accidental and more coherent. Events don't feel scripted, but they feel placed. As if you're walking through a story that's been outlined, not dictated. That sensation can be grounding instead of frightening, because if recognition precedes arrival, then awareness is larger than sequence. And that insight naturally points to a final unsettling question. What if mind and world aren't separate domains at all? What if they're expressions of the same underlying field? At some point, all these experiences stop feeling isolated. Dreams, symbols, coincidences, déjà vu, they start forming a single pattern. Not neatly, not logically, but meaningfully. This is where synchronicity delivers its deepest implication. That mind and world aren't strangers passing in the dark. They're reflections moving on the same surface. You're not sealed inside your skull, reacting to an external universe. You're participating in a shared field of meaning. And once you sense that, the old world view quietly collapses, not with fear, but with relief. Think of reality less like a machine and more like a conversation. In a real conversation, timing matters as much as words. Pauses carry meaning. Tone carries truth. No single sentence causes the next, yet they belong together. That's how unity works. Inner images arise, outer events respond, and neither fully explains the other. They co-emerge, like waves forming patterns on water. No wave causes the ocean, but each expresses it. Your psyche is one of those waves. So is the world you experience. This perspective changes how you move through life. You stop obsessing over control and start refining attention. You become more curious than anxious, more responsive than reactive. Instead of asking, "How do I force this?" you ask, "What's trying to unfold here?" That question alone sharpens perception. You notice patterns earlier, you sense misalignment faster, and you respect signals instead of overriding them. That's not passivity, it's intelligence in motion. Here's something practical you can live with. Before big decisions, don't just list pros and cons. Notice what repeats around the choice. Conversations, symbols, emotions. Pay attention to resistance that feels protective, not fearful. Revisit your dreams during uncertain periods. They often compensate for blind spots. Read thinkers who explore meaning, not just productivity. Jung, Hill, Campbell. Journal synchronicities without trying to own them. Let them teach you how reality responds to honesty. Over time, you'll feel less fragmented, more internally consistent. And consistency invites coherence from the world. What emerges is a quiet confidence that doesn't need proof. Not belief, but familiarity. You sense that life isn't random, even when it's painful. That events aren't punishments, but messages shaped by context. This doesn't make you naive, it makes you resilient. Because when meaning underlies experience, chaos loses its sting. You don't demand certainty, you develop trust. And trust changes how deeply you engage with life. Not as a controller of outcomes, but as a conscious participant in a unified reality. In that light, synchronicity isn't a strange exception. It's a reminder, a glimpse behind the curtain that usually stays closed. And once you've seen it enough times, you don't need it to prove itself anymore. You start living as if meaning matters, as if attention shapes experience, as if inner truth and outer reality are already in dialogue. And from there, everything you encounter feels different. Now comes the part that actually matters. Insight alone doesn't change a life. Attention does. If synchronicity is real, then the way you observe your life shapes what you receive from it. So ask yourself, where have you been rushing past meaning? Which signals have you labeled as just coincidence because they didn't fit logic? Your life may already be speaking. The question is whether you're listening. Start small, but start honestly. Notice patterns instead of isolated events. Track your dreams, emotional reactions, repeated symbols, and charged encounters. When something resonates deeply, pause instead of dismissing it. Ask what part of your inner world it's reflecting. This practice doesn't make life predictable. It makes it intelligible. And when life becomes intelligible, fear loses its grip. You stop feeling like a victim of randomness. You begin acting as a conscious participant in meaning. Let this knowledge change how you decide. Before major choices, don't only ask what's efficient, ask what's aligned. Notice when resistance feels like fear versus when it feels like intuition. Let your perception mature beyond urgency. Life rewards coherence, not force. And when your inner world becomes clearer, the outer world responds with surprising precision. That's not magic. That's unity expressing itself through awareness. Now I want to hear from you. Have you experienced moments of synchronicity you couldn't explain? Dreams that came true, signs that arrived too perfectly, coincidences that changed you? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might unlock meaning for someone else. And if you want to keep exploring the deeper layers of the mind, meaning and human transformation, subscribe to Mind's Silent Echo and turn on notifications. This channel exists for those who feel there's more beneath the surface and who are ready to listen when reality speaks quietly.